Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. The Curse of Oak Island find enemies in Canadian government. The guys on the Curse of Oak Island are facing another obstacle. The Canadian government stepped in to try to stop them from excavating on the island. However, the goal was to find underground passages to what they believe is the treasure. Unfortunately, red tape is getting in the way. Here is what is slowing down the search for treasure on Oak Island. Canadian government puts stop to Curse of Oak Island excavation. The Curse of Oak Island saw the team find a possible secret chamber underground around the garden shaft. Doug called Dumas Contracting Lot and hired them to come in and work as excavators to dig them down and into these possible chambers. They believe they found passageways to a possible buried treasure on the island. This led the team to have to wait because it would take 50 days to go down about 75 feet. They believed that they might have just found a series of tunnels and chambers that will lead to the mythical hidden treasure. They also believe that one of the artifacts they found had Viking origin, which dates back even more years than they expected. Now, there is a new problem. The Canadian government said that hiring excavators means that the Lagani brothers need a mining permit. While they are not technically mining, it is still red tape that has once again made the government an enemy to the team finding treasure. However, not all fans seemed surprised. One fan took to Reddit to write, "The Canadian government wants to prevent a group of well-documented gold diggers from blindly rebuilding a wooden shaft that goes down an unknown depth on an island where 6 treasure hunters have already died doing the exact same thing, and they're the villains in this situation." The Canadian government has interfered before. This isn't the first time the Canadian government has interfered in the Lagani brothers' treasure hunting on the Curse of Oak Island. In 2021, the Canadian government shut down a large part of the dig operations on the island. This was when the Lagani brothers team found several centuries-old indigenous artifacts. It happened during Season 9 when the team discovered First Nation Mi'kmaq pottery shards on the island. This caused Marty Lagani to say on an episode at the time they would lay low on archaeological methods, waiting for the dust to settle. What resulted from that was just a tightening of regulations for the show. At the time, the Lagani stopped regular archaeological methods for alternative digging techniques. They expanded on that this season by using new technology to map out areas under the island, which allows them to find clues and possible entry points without unnecessary digging. However, the excavation brought about a new conflict with the Canadian government. For centuries, the enigmatic Oak Island, nestled off the coast of Nova Scotia, has intrigued and baffled treasure hunters, historians, and conspiracy theorists alike. Whispers of buried treasure, secret societies, and ancient relics have drawn adventurers from far and wide, but few have managed to peel back the layers of mystery that shroud this small isle. As the years have rolled on, and the discoveries have become more tantalizing, a new and sinister theory has begun to take shape, that there are powerful enemies within the Canadian government actively working to keep the secrets of Oak Island buried. The notion seems outlandish at first. Why would the government have any interest in a secluded island and its hidden treasures? However, a closer examination reveals a series of oddities and suspicious actions that suggest a deeper, darker involvement. In the early 1800s, when the first serious attempts to excavate the Money Pit began, it quickly became apparent that Oak Island was no ordinary site. The pit seemed to be booby-trapped, with floods triggered at specific depths, and mysterious artifacts were discovered, hinting at connections to the Knights Templar, Freemasons, and even the lost treasures of the Ark of the Covenant. As interest grew, so did governmental interference. Local authorities initially feigned support for the treasure hunters, granting permits and providing minimal assistance. However, those involved in the digs began to notice that their efforts were often stymied by unexpected bureaucratic red tape. Permits were suddenly revoked, and work was halted for vague environmental or safety concerns. More than one excavation was abruptly shut down due to concerns about disrupting local ecosystems, even when these concerns seemed exaggerated or entirely unfounded. Over time, these interferences took on a more sinister tone. Documents went missing from archives, crucial pieces of evidence were mysteriously lost, and key figures in the Oak Island search faced baseless legal troubles. The whispers among the treasure hunting community grew louder. Someone high up didn't want them to succeed. A breakthrough in this theory came with the arrival of the Lagina brothers in the mid-2000s. Their well-funded and meticulously planned excavations brought a renewed sense of purpose and professionalism to the search. As their discoveries began to draw international attention, so too did the obstacles they faced. The brothers found themselves embroiled in endless legal battles over excavation rights, permits, and environmental regulations. Each step forward seemed to be met with a new and insurmountable roadblock. Rick and Marty Lagina began to suspect that their adversaries weren't merely local officials overstepping their bounds, but something much larger and more organized. Their suspicions were confirmed when an anonymous source within the government came forward with a shocking revelation. A secretive committee within the Canadian government had been formed decades ago with the express purpose of keeping Oak Island's secrets hidden. This committee, dubbed the Guardians of the Depths, was comprised of high-ranking officials from various government departments, including Heritage, Defense, and National Security. Their mission was clear: protect whatever lay beneath Oak Island from falling into the wrong hands. The committee's existence was justified under the pretext that the island's treasures, if they indeed existed, were of such historical and national significance that they must be preserved at all costs. Public knowledge or private ownership of these treasures was seen as a threat to national security. The Lagina brothers' source provided evidence of this committee's activities, including minutes from meetings where plans to sabotage excavations were discussed. There were even references to covert operations to plant false evidence, discredit prominent treasure hunters, and manipulate public perception through controlled media leaks. Armed with this knowledge, the Lagina brothers decided to fight back. They hired a team of lawyers and investigators to uncover more about the Guardians of the Depths and expose their operations. Public awareness became their greatest weapon. They leveraged their popular television series, The Curse of Oak Island, to shine a light on these hidden forces working against them. Episodes began to feature not just the hunt for treasure, but also the struggle against bureaucratic and clandestine efforts to derail their quest. As the public became more aware of the government's possible involvement, pressure mounted on Canadian officials to come clean. Questions were raised in Parliament and the media began to dig into the story. The government was forced to respond, initially with denials, but eventually as more evidence came to light, with reluctant admissions. The revelations sparked outrage and fascination across the country and beyond. How deep did the conspiracy go? What were the Guardians of the Depths really protecting? The public demanded transparency, and an independent inquiry was launched. The committee's activities were exposed, and while many documents were destroyed to cover tracks, enough remained to paint a picture of a decades-long effort to control the narrative around Oak Island. Despite the setbacks, the Lagina brothers and their team continued their search, now with an added layer of resolve. They were no longer just treasure hunters. They were crusaders for truth and transparency. The battle against the unseen forces within the government added a new dimension to their quest, transforming it into a fight for historical justice. In the end, Lagina's dogged determination began to pay off. They uncovered artifacts and evidence that hinted at the true nature of Oak Island's secrets, objects of immense historical value, linked to ancient civilizations and potentially holding answers to some of history's greatest mysteries. The struggle against their governmental adversaries brought them closer together, forging alliances with historians, archaeologists, and other treasure hunters worldwide. The Curse of Oak Island remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries, but the uncovering of governmental interference has added a thrilling new chapter to its story. The enemies within the Canadian government, once shadowy figures in the background, are now exposed to the light of public scrutiny. The quest for Oak Island secrets continues, But now it is as much about uncovering historical truths as it is about discovering buried treasure.